Hello. How amazing to be here with you live. How exciting. Drop me an emoji. Say hi if you're watching. So welcome to the garden party. I invite you to step through the rickety gate of your creative heart space. Open pathways into your soul's magical garden. Welcome to the garden party. I'm Celia Barsby, and I am delighted to be able to be here with you in this beautiful setting to talk to you about my medicine. And my medicine is a challenging question to start with. And here's I'm going to give you a quote. And I'd love to know how you respond to this. Your deepest wound is your greatest medicine. Now, for some of you, you may know what your medicine is. And for some of you, you may be thinking, well, I'm not really sure what that is yet. And maybe that's exactly why you're listening and watching this video. It's okay not to know, because as we reawaken and as we uncover our medicine, then that is what we are here to learn and to grow as we spend this time together. I invite you to discover your authentic, rebellious, quirky self. This is what happened. This is what happened for me as I reawaken to my soul purpose. For many of us, our authentic self goes into hiding. We felt that we were not safe to be the person we were designed to be. All sorts of wounded childhood stories come up for us, and that stops us moving into this beautiful soul that you are here to live out your life journey. And in Garden Party, we always talk about starting your journey. We get to start. And for some of us, we go, you know, I sort of know where I am now, but where do I want to go? Imagine you are going on a journey, and if you've ever, been travelling and you've used a sat nav or GPS, the first thing you are asked is, where do you want to go? What's your destination? And secondly, we put in the start point. So in Garden Party, I always invite you to think about, where do I want to be? Where do I want to be in 6 months? Where do I want to be in a year? How do I want to be feeling? How am I feeling now? And then we start to explore, what is the gap? What do you need? What resources do you need? You know, if you're going on a journey, my favourite thing, if I'm going on a journey, the first thing is I need bacon sandwiches. I need to make sure I've got those drinks, there's the water, and I've got the juice, and to make sure that I'm hydrated and I am resourced. I need to make sure my car is full of fuel. And so those are the sort of questions we ask in Garden Party, to say, are you resourced? Have you got everything you need? Is there something that is missing that you need? You need some help. You need extra information. What do you need to get from the start to your destination? And of course, for many of us, what comes up is, well, here is where we meet our limiting beliefs, because we go, well, you know, I'm not even in the car yet, because I don't feel that I'm able to. I'm not enough. These are some of the old stories that came up for me. You know, you're too old. You know, why would you want to do that? Stepping into your soul purpose means addressing some of those limiting beliefs that come up for all of us. And we talk as well at the start of the journey about permission. And as soon as you give yourself permission to begin that journey, to say, yeah, this is where I am, this is my start, this is where I want to be, and this is what I need to help me get there. And we promise, we give ourselves permission to actually take that first step. And of course, for many of us as women, we were not encouraged or even allowed to speak our truth. We weren't allowed to give ourselves that permission, whether we had an ideal childhood or whether we had a more challenging childhood. For many of us, over generations, women were not allowed to express our inner voice. And what happens is that, often we push that voice down, and the more we resist speaking our truth, then eventually that results in, if we are repressing our emotional and our spiritual bodies, then eventually that causes issues in our physical body. And a lot of the time that is because we don't feel safe to speak out and to say how we're feeling. I certainly had a time in my life when I didn't feel I could say what I wanted. I didn't feel like I could speak my truth, to say what I was thinking and feeling, and that led to me to feel very trapped. Which is, I think, why now I feel I have got that freedom. This is where Garden Party was really birthed. In Garden Party, I also talk about the importance of connecting with your spirituality. We are a physical being having a human experience, but we have a spiritual soul. And as soon as we learn and develop ways of connecting with our spirit that may feel completely unique to you. I was brought up in a very traditional Christian home, but it was when I began to really connect with Mother Earth, with nature, that I began to feel that connection that resonated with my soul. I love to be able to go out into my garden. I love to feel the earth beneath my feet. In fact, this last winter I noticed that because in the UK it's not very usual for us to be able to walk outside barefoot in the winter, and we don't have that sort of weather, but I was really missing that connection. And so sometimes there are seasons where we just really need to lean in and say, what is it I need? What do I need right now that enables me to connect with my spirituality? What resonates with my soul? And when you have created that connection, when you've really understood your purpose of what you're here, your feet are anchored on the ground, you're feeling that flow through your entire body, then you feel pulled to say, what is my magic? What is the medicine that I get to bring to the world? And so in Garden Party, I talk about a treasure chest, because like all good treasure chests, they often get buried. We lose them, we lose the key, and we go, if I had any magic, if I had any medicine, I don't know what I've done with it. And here's the thing, the medicine that you have inside of you is unique to you, and all it requires is for you to do the remembering. I talk a lot about, that connection with self, because you get to find your magic within. You will discover the key to open that treasure chest. And a little heads up, a little sneaky preview, the key to our medicine, the key to our magical treasure chest is our limiting beliefs. When we begin to do the work of uncovering those, that's when we really discover our magic. And the other thing to say is it's what you're really good at. It's the thing that you do that you say, oh, but that's so easy. But I can do that. Can't everybody do that? That was certainly my experience of saying, well, surely everybody knows how to explain. Surely everybody knows how to plant and garden. And it was when I started to merge those two together that I began to see the wisdom and the transformation that can come when we connect with the energy of the garden. Now, there are times in life where we will encounter challenges. And I talk about going through the mill. Now, I'd like to spend just a moment creating the atmosphere of an old-fashioned working flour mill. So imagine yourself, you have bought your bag of grain to the mill to be ground into flour, because these are, and I'm going, these are the days before the supermarkets, before Tesco's and all of those other supermarkets that are out there, and even the local shop. You would take your grain to the mill. And inside that mill, there would be machinery clanking, and you've got the grindstones going round, and they're heavy and they're noisy, and it's dusty, and it feels a little bit overwhelming. But the skilled miller knows how to just apply enough pressure, just the right amount of pressure, to crush the grain to create the flour. And you will see the watermill turning, because when the river has a flow, that's when the mill can turn. So here's the thing, what do you learn from the medicine that is in magical key number 5, going through the mill? You learn resilience. You discover that when you do the work, when it is a bit overwhelming, when it is noisy, and you go, oh my goodness, what is going on? That is when you discover your resilience. You discover that you can move through these challenging times. You learn that we are able to withstand just the right amount of pressure to release the goodness of the flour, to create the bread, to sustain us. And the last thing we learn is the importance of being in flow. Because if there is no water flowing in that river, then the wheel doesn't turn and the grindstones can't turn. And so in this particular key, which I think is one of the most transformational, then we learn the importance and the value of being in flow, being connected with our spirit. I talk about creating your own magic. This key came from the symbol of a little Aladdin's lamp, and I'm sure you've all made a wish. You can drop me a comment to say when did you last make a wish. I'm sure we have all made wishes, but the magic comes when we are so connected with the universe, so connected with our spirit, that we are co-creating with the universe. And when we do that, then we are in abundance. We are receiving what we are asking for, because the universe has already told us what to ask for. So this creating your magic is a super a very special key. I talk about your book of life, not from any sense of oh well, my life is, my life story is written and there's nothing I can do to change it. But your book of life is something you are actively writing and creating. And in my program, you will create your own book. You will handle the paper and the pages, and you'll choose the colours just as you design your own life. This is your book of life. So we start to engage with creativity and creative play. We infuse our personalities into our book of life in a very physical form, just as we are creating our own book of life in that emotional and spiritual realm. Key number 8, because there are 15 keys, and I'm just sort of dropping in some numbers every now and then. And key 8, I mean, how beautiful that symbol of infinity wants to be seen here, is you are the bell. So I'd like to spend just a moment or two talking about the symbol of the bell. So in the days before Facebook and news channels and radio and television and all of that, then villages would ring out a bell if there was something to announce, if there was some news. It may even ring if there was a warning, and that bell would ring out from the churches and people would know to wake up, pay attention. So my invitation to you is, you are the bell. So is there something that you are ready to declare? Is there an announcement you want to make? Do you feel like you're hearing that bell ringing and it feels like a warning bell? Maybe it's something that you get to take notice of, that pay attention. This is important. Your time is now. So that's the sort of thing that we receive that wisdom, we receive that message when we listen to the key, which is you are the bell. The next key is we talk about shadow work. Now, I remember a time when I hadn't even heard of shadow work, and somebody mentioned it, and it was like something woke up inside me, and I went, what did they say? I need to find out. What do they mean by shadow work? So for me, when we acknowledge the shadow side of self, those times, those aspects of self that make us feel a bit uncomfortable, that we go, I really, I want to address that. I want to change this. I want to understand why I respond in this way. When we start to work with our shadow, then we see the greatest transformation. And I'd like to share a time when I experienced depression. I've had 2 major episodes of depression in my life. The first time I had no tools whatsoever to actually understand what was happening. And the world talks about depression often as a breakdown, and that was the words that were used around my experience. Now I look back and I see that time as my breakthrough, not my breakdown. And the second time I was experiencing those same emotions, those same overwhelming feelings, I had more tools. So that was interesting because I went, whoa, I recognise this, I recognise what I'm feeling. And there was a sense where I don't want to go there again. I don't want to slide down this slippery, muddy slope and end up in the sludge, because that's how it felt. And then I heard of the quote, no mud, no lotus. And I started using the tools that I had of creativity to think, oh, I wonder what mud has to tell me. I wonder what mud has to teach me. And I remembered a time when I went on holiday in Turkey, and we went to the mud baths. We deliberately went into the mud and we splashed mud all over our faces and our bodies, and it felt amazing. And all of a sudden my relationship with those muddy depths shifted and changed. And I could then see that the experience of being in that dark, muddy, slightly messy place was where the transformation was going to take place. When I work in my garden, when I plant seeds, I plant them in the soil. I get my hands dirty, as we all do. If you want to plant seeds, if you want to plant bulbs, you are going to get your hands in the dirt. And that's where you do the creation of this transformation that you get to experience. And because in Garden Party we do the deep work in a creative and playful way, then I've got several creative activities that I share with you where we get to really play with this shadow side. We work with Illuminate Your Darkness, as a beautiful creative activity I can share with you. I got to paint roses in muddy colours. And this is how we can shift our relationship when we're doing this deep shadow work, which is so transformational. And a piece that we often miss out in this very busy world that we live in. We know we finish one thing and then we move on to the next. And as soon as that's done, we move on to the next. And in Garden Party, I talk about the importance of celebrating how far you have come. I call it stop and smell the roses. Just pause. Think where you were 6 months ago. Think where you were in your journey a year ago. A year is beautiful because you can really connect with that same season, because we are different in the different seasons that we move through. So just reflecting on, oh, what was I doing? What was I doing this time last year? How was I feeling? And you go, oh my goodness, how much have I grown in this year? And we only experience that when we stop and we pause and we breathe and we appreciate and we celebrate our journey so far. So such an important integration piece that I include in Garden Party, and it comes around 2/3 of the way through that journey of going, oh yes, because you've just done all the shadow work. Breathe, stop and smell the roses. Now, 8 years ago, I committed to a regular journaling practice, and in Garden Party I talk about the power of the written word. Now, I know for a lot of people the idea of writing and journaling is something that maybe you think, well, I'm not sure I want to do all that writing. Perhaps it triggers memories of at school, you know, when you do some beautiful piece of writing and somebody would come and tell you the spellings weren't right and your grammar wasn't right. Now, journaling, the power of the written word, isn't anything like that. Let me share with you my journaling practice. I use the practice of morning pages, which comes from Julia Cameron, The Artist's Way. And morning pages look like this. You free write. I like to put on some music. I have 2 or 3 meditation songs. I put on the same music each day, so my brain is used to that pattern. There's a sense of ritual. And you write, and you write. And sometimes you go, I really don't know what I want to write about today. And you start just pouring out onto the page whatever is going through your mind. And what happens is, and my experience, because Julia Cameron talks about 3 pages, somewhere around halfway down the 3rd page, you have a real aha moment. You go, oh, that's what I needed to hear today. This magical key, that's this process of writing and accessing your inner wisdom in this way, really can open new pathways. So if you haven't tried journaling, or most people I talk to go, oh yeah, I used to do journaling, but I stopped. Just, pick up a cheap exercise book. Doesn't need to be crazy expensive. Pick up a book and just see what happens. I'm going to share with you the next magical key, which is celebrate your wins. Now, this is a little bit different from stop and smell the roses. People are, what's the difference between those two? But here's the thing. I remember a time when I couldn't get out of bed in the morning. I was exhausted. I didn't want to get out of bed in the morning. And so, for me, a win on days like that was I got out of bed. And maybe the next day I would be able to get out of bed and get dressed. Wow, that was huge. And then there came the day when I was able to get up, I was able to get dressed, and I was able to go out into my garden and feed the birds. Those are big wins. Now, I probably don't even notice those times. I get up, I get dressed, I go out, I feed the birds, and I go, now what? But when we stop and celebrate those little wins, something quite incredible happens in our brains. Because the brain doesn't know the difference between something that is, a big win or a little win. The same hormones, the same feel-good hormones are released into your physical system. And so doing something that releases those feel-good hormones, and I'm going to share with you one of the things I love doing is painting my nails. Because what happens is all of those feel-good hormones start to be released, and then your system is flooded with the feel-good hormones rather than dropping into stress and anxiety. And it's a bit like having kids. You go, you shouldn't have favourites, but I think this is my this may be one of my favourite keys. Being drunk on life. Now, what do I mean when I'm talking about being drunk on life? I am talking about the times when you feel so full of joy, so full of the passion that you have for life that it feels quite intoxicating. And it's those times when I invite you to drop into the energy of gratitude. I talk about a portal, a gateway in your soul's magical garden. You can imagine what that gateway might look like if you just close your eyes. And above that gateway is written the word gratitude. And when we go through into this garden of abundance where we feel so drunk on life, then that is when the access to that place is through gratitude. I share with you a gratitude practice that I have, and just entering into that state of gratitude on a daily basis really it just encourages more joy, more lightness of spirit. It raises your vibration. Now, one of the really important aspects of any journey of self-discovery and awakening is that you accept that you are the ruler of your own life. You accept sovereignty for your life. And when I talk about sovereignty, I talk about healthy boundaries, that I am responsible for my own well-being. I am responsible for my choices in life. And that is having sovereignty, that I get to choose what I want to do, who I want to be with. And sovereignty is also about having the right connections, having the people around you that are going to support you and encourage you and cheer you on. Because without those right connections, then you become very isolated. And so sovereignty is about the right connections and clear and healthy boundaries. And finally, we drop into the music of your life. Music is so powerful. Music can awaken memories. It can evoke deep emotions. And in Free to Be Me, in reawakening to your soul's purpose, I invite you to dance to the music of your life so that you get to choose the tune. You're not going to live your life by anybody else's standards, by anybody else's rules. You get to dance to your own tune, to the vibrations that resonate for you. So my invitation is always to come and spend time with me in my garden, in garden party. And your next step is to access the free gifts that are available to everybody, which is a free workbook called The Start of the Journey, and also an invitation to come and have a cup of tea in a virtual garden and let's talk about reawakening to your soul's purpose.